raise your hand, or if you need to take a break, you need to take a recess, all right? And then I'll just be able to go ahead and call on you. So feel free to do that. We're going to go on the record in just a minute. Okay, so now that you are seated, you are in fact the jury that is going to be deciding this case. So what I'm going to ask you to do one more time is go ahead, stand up, raise your right hand. Now we're actually going to swear you in as jurors at this time. So I'm going to have the clerk swear you in.
Do each of you solemnly swear that you will try this cause and bring forth a verdict according to the law and the evidence presented to you? If you agree, answer, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead and be seated. Now I'm going to take about 10 minutes. I'm going to give you some preliminary information so that you know exactly what's going to be happening today. The fact that the defendant has been charged with a crime is not proof that he has actually committed a crime. The defendant has entered a plea of not guilty, which puts into issue every element of the crime that's been charged by the city of Longview. The city has the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt each element of the charge. The defendant has no burden of proof, and he does not have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it exists, and he also does not have any duty whatsoever to call any witnesses on his behalf or to produce any evidence. He, in fact, does not even have to testify. The defendant, again, is presumed innocent throughout the duration of the hearing today. This presumption is going to continue throughout the entire trial until you find, or unless you find during your deliberations, that has been overcome by evidence proven beyond a reasonable doubt. A reasonable doubt is one for which a reason exists, and it may arise from the evidence, it may arise from the lack of evidence. It is such a doubt as would exist in the mind of a reasonable person after fully, fairly, and carefully considering all of the evidence or the lack of evidence. When you go back to the jury room today, you will have a written definition of reasonable doubt. It is your duty to determine the facts of this case from the evidence produced in court. It is also your duty to accept the instructions of the law that I'm going to give you when you go back to deliberate. Regardless of what you personally think the law is or what it should be, you need to follow the instructions. You are to apply the law that I give you to the facts that you hear today or don't hear, and in this way, you're going to decide the case. It's important to keep your minds open and attentive throughout the entire trial. By the end of the day, you should be tired because you have focused so entirely upon the case. It would be hard to do this if you start discussing the case early or before you've heard all of the evidence. So until you begin your deliberations, please do not talk to each other about the case when you take a break, during lunch, and don't even allow yourself to be in a position outside the courtroom where you might hear something about the case. Please don't determine the law on your own by reading about it during a break or lunch or researching it. Do not seek out evidence on your own. Everything you need to hear or not hear, you're going to hear in this room today. Don't go inspect the scene of any events involved in the case. When you're out of the courtroom during noon, don't stop and investigate, don't use your phone, don't Google anything as it pertains to this case. We're going to break for lunch when we get to a convenient stopping point. Usually it's around noon or 12:30 or so. You can be free to leave the building at that time. And again, if anybody needs a break beforehand, just raise your hand. If you can't hear anything that you need, we're here to go ahead and be of service to you. This is how the case is going to go. The prosecutor from the city is going to make the opening statement, and he's going to outline the city's expected evidence that he is expecting you to hear today. The defense attorney then is going to make a statement right after the city prosecutor, or he can choose to wait until after the city has completed its case. It's up to him. Since the state, again, remember, or the city has a burden of proof, the defense has no duty to present an opening statement. Then the state, or the city, is going to present its evidence. Then the defendant may present evidence, or there's no requirement that the defense present any evidence. Rebuttal evidence may also be presented. And finally, I'm going to instruct you on the law that you're going to take back with you to the jury room. and then the lawyers are going to make closing arguments. So that is basically how the day is going to go. And finally, as a last step, you go to the jury room, you select a presiding juror, and then you begin your deliberations. With each witness, the attorney calling that witness will go first with what's called direct examination, where they're actually asking them direct questions. Then the opposing attorney gets to do what's called cross-examination, where they are questioning after the direct questions. Then it's back to the other attorney for redirect and so on and so forth. It's going to make sense to you after you see the first witness. As the case proceeds, the lawyers may make various objections. They have the right, and in fact, they have a duty to object if they feel that it's appropriate. There's lots of rules of evidence. That's why there's 3 years of law school you have to get through in courtroom procedure. And it's common for me as a judge to have to rule on some of those issues or questions. Sometimes I'll rule on the spot, and I'll just make a ruling. Other times, it may be a little more complicated. They may have to come up to the bench. If that happens, we may put you back in the jury room briefly in order to have argument. We're going to do our best to keep our disruptions down to a minimum, but if they occur, please bear with us. There's a reason. I don't like to have the jury go back to the jury room, but if you do go back to the jury room, you can be assured that there's a good reason that we're doing that. When an objection is made, I'm going to rule on it, and I'm going to say either it's sustained or that it's overruled. Now, if I say it's sustained, what that means is I'm ruling that the question should not be allowed to be asked or that the answer should not be given. If I say it's overruled, that means I will allow that question or I will allow that answer. You don't need to be concerned about why I rule the way that I rule, and it's important to disregard evidence that's not admitted or that's ordered to be stricken. The remarks, statements, and arguments that you hear from the attorneys, they are not evidence. All they help you do is understand the evidence and understand the law. But what the attorneys say is not part of the evidence. So you must disregard anything they say that is not supported by the evidence or by the instructions of the law that I give you. The only evidence you're going to consider is the testimony you're going to hear today, which is why it's real important you pay attention. And any exhibits that are admitted. Exhibits may be pictures, they may be documents. You're going to have an opportunity to also see the exhibits and the pictures. You need to listen carefully to the witness's testimony. You need to look at their faces. You need to look at the body language. You really need to pay attention to the people that are testifying. You're not going to be taking any transcripts back with you, which is why it's important that you watch them firsthand. Any exhibits that are admitted into evidence will go back with you to the jury room. You can take notes. The clerk will pass out notepads and pens, but you don't have to take notes. And I want to give you a word of caution. I was a trial attorney for 20 years, and the one thing that is a little disruptive is if you're taking notes and putting your head down a lot, you can't always watch what the witnesses are saying. So I would just tell you that be careful how you take the notes, because the most important thing that you're going to be seeing is a person that's actually talking. Does that make sense? And when you're deliberating, it's fine to use any notes that you take back with you and to remember the testimony. But remember, you're not taking any transcripts back, and everyone may have different memories. So keep your minds open to the recollections of everybody that's in the room. If you take notes, don't disclose them, don't discuss them until you're actually back and deliberating. When you're out of the courtroom during the recess, keep the notepads in the jury room, and when the trial's over, you can leave them there. By now, you've heard me mention several times, it's very important to keep an open mind. Base your verdict only on the evidence and on the law. In this way, you're going to make sure it's a fair trial, and you are going to be the kind of jurors that you would want if, in fact, you were on trial. That's the kind of juror you want to be. In serving on this juror, you're acting as officers of the court. That is why I think it's important. If you'll notice, when you come in and out, I always stand and people stand because you're the most important people in the room today. And so we're showing you the respect that you deserve. Throughout the trial, it's important to be impartial. You can't let sympathy influence you. Again, you've got to just look at the evidence. If anybody asks you about the case or the people when you go to lunch, You need to tell them that you're not allowed to talk about it because, in fact, you are officers of the court. Don't listen to any reports from the newspapers, and again, do not do any research. This means during the trial, you don't discuss it with each other or anyone else. Don't consult dictionaries or reference materials, and again, I've already gone over that. So now this is what we're gonna do. What we're gonna do is we are gonna start with the City of Longview. The prosecutor is gonna make an opening statement. So do me a favor and do yourselves a favor and pay close attention to what is gonna be happening from here on out. Go ahead, Mr. Schuman.
Your Honor, counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. To begin with, on behalf of the city, I wish to thank you for your service today. The city appreciates your time that you're taking to provide Mr. Wood with his right to a jury trial. And to show that appreciation, I'll make these remarks very brief, get straight to the point, and simply try to provide you with a short overview of the case from the city's perspective, so that as the evidence comes in bits and pieces of testimony, as it always does, you'll know where the case is headed. Mr. Wood is charged with 4th-degree assault, which is any unlawful touching or striking of another person. That's alleged to have taken place on November 9th of last year at a residence at 3048 Dover Street in the city limits of Longview. That's a single-family residence which Mr. Wood was residing in, along with a Miss Wendy Staudinger. They had been in a dating relationship. There were also 2 of Wendy Staudinger's children residing there. Sometime between 11 p.m. and midnight, they were at the home, and Mr. Wood and Miss Staudinger got into an argument about their breaking up and him wanting her to leave the home. During the course of that argument, Mr. Wood ripped the shirt of Miss Staudinger that Miss Staudinger was wearing and hit Miss Staudinger across the face. That in bare essence is what happened. The details will come out as the case is presented. The city plans to call 5 witnesses: Miss Staudinger, Officers Durbin and Officer Heston of the Longview Police Department, and 2 other witnesses who were at the scene, Catch Staudinger and Adriana Staudinger. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schuman. And Mr. Brengard, did you wish to make a statement, sir?
Absolutely, I do. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this story is as old as Adam and Eve. This is a story of a man who had a relationship with a woman for 6 years. They lived together. She thought it was a committed relationship. She hoped it was a committed relationship. But you know, he comes home one evening and he tells her, Wendy, I want to break up. I have another woman. Well, after 6 years, Wendy didn't take it very well. She was angry. She was angry as any woman might be. Frankly, perhaps as angry as any woman should be and deserves to be. She slapped Michael, got into an altercation with Michael. It's not because Wendy's a bad person. She was hurt. Here's a man that she felt was part of their family. 11:30 at night, she finds out, nope, he wants me out of his house. He wants me to leave. And damn, that's not going to happen. He calls 911. But you know, our society is a patriarchal society. And by that, I mean that men, we don't only make the rules, we interpret the rules. And for whatever God reason we don't know, we believe that we have to protect women, even when they've done something wrong. So it's investigated, and it's usually the case, and I'm sure I want to talk about common sense in my opening statement, because I want you to use it today. I want you to use that experience, I want you to use that common sense, and think, is this something that's plausible? Is this something that could have happened? Is this something that one might expect to happen? He calls 911, the police come. They do their investigation, but they don't arrest Wendy. They probably felt sorry for her. I'm sure they did their best investigation that they could, but they arrest Michael. Wendy has some bruises. My client has some bruises. Now the story right now is that I'm going to ask you to be like the audience at 12 o'clock when you're listening to Paul Harvey. I'm going to ask you to wait for the rest of the story. Because remember, Mr. Schumann goes first. Mr. Schumann goes last. Mr. Brungart, on behalf of Michael Wood, we're in the middle. And remember, what you hear first and what you hear last, in all likelihood, unless you use every bit of energy that you have, I want you to listen for the rest of the story, and then at the end of the day, when you're deliberating, I want you to use that common sense. I want you to use that life experience and say, is it reasonable that a woman would become angry? Is it reasonable that she might lose her emotions? Is it reasonable that she might strike out? Is all of that reasonable? Yes. So listen carefully, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brungard. And at this point, the city is going to call its first witness.
City would be calling Wendy Stottinger.
Your Honor, when they're in the witness stand, they need to take their mask off.
Okay, thank you.
Just have you go up to that seat up there.
Hello. Okay, you can take your mask off while you testify. Thank you, and then you can raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you very much. Go ahead and have a seat. Go ahead, Mr. Schumann.
Would you please state your full name for the record?
Wendy Ann Stottinger?
And Ms. Stottinger, do you live in the Longview area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And who do you currently reside
Just
with?
1 second, I'm sorry. Can everyone hear her? Can you put and I know this is uncomfortable for you, but you're going to get through it. Pull the mic a little closer to you, if you will, and speak into it, okay?
Okay.
You all right with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she needs to speak a little bit louder because the microphones aren't voice enhancement. They're
Okay.
Do the best you can so that we don't have to do it twice, right? Okay.
Who do you reside there with right now?
Right now, Michael Wood, Adriana Stottinger, and Ketch Stottinger.
What is your, do you work?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you have an occupation?
I was a CNA and a cashier.
Ms. Stottinger, I want to get to the reason why we're here today. First off, do you know Mr. Wood here who is seated next to Mr. Brungard?
Yes, I do.
And how long have you known him?
7 years.
And how have you come to know him?
We've been in a relationship.
Do you have children together?
Not together, no.
Now, I want to direct your attention to November 9th of last year. First off, where were you residing on that date?
Longview, 3048 Dover Street.
Okay. And who was residing there with you?
Michael Wood, Adriana Stottinger, and Ketch Stottinger.
Okay. Who are Adriana and Ketch Stottinger?
My son and my daughter.
Okay, from a prior relationship?
Yes.
At about 11 in the evening, who was at the residence?
Ketch Stodinger, I believe Adriana Stodinger, and Mike Wood.
Okay. Had you been working that day?
No.
Sometime between 11 p.m. and midnight, did Mr. Wood and yourself get into an argument?
Yes, we did.
Where in the residence were you and he at the time?
In our bedroom.
Okay. How did the argument start?
I came in, I went to the store, I came in the room, and he told me that he wanted me to move out because he was with somebody else.
Okay. When did he want you to move out?
At night.
You mean just right away?
Yes.
Brittany,
What about the kids?
There was a Kleenex.
Your kids?
Wanted me to take him with me.
Okay. Now, did you have lots of stuff in the house?
Yeah, we've been together for 6 years and we've accumulated a lot of stuff together.
Okay.
Thank you.
When he told you that, what did you do?
At first, I told him I wasn't gonna leave, and then he just kept telling me I needed to leave, so I sat down on this side of the bed and tried to ignore it.
Okay. What happened then?
He just kept telling me that I needed to pack my stuff and go. And I got up to go smoke a cigarette out the bedroom window.
Okay. What happened when you started to go to the window to smoke?
He came over on the side of me.
What did he do then?
I put the cigarette in my mouth and he took it out.
Okay. Did you light up a second cigarette?
Yes, I did. I went to go light up a second one.
Okay. What happened when you lit up the second cigarette?
When I went to light the second cigarette, he reached behind my back and grabbed my phone out of my back pocket.
Okay. So your cell phone was in like your back pocket here?
Yeah, my back pocket.
Okay, and he reached and grabbed it?
Yeah.
Had you taken his cell phone?
At that point, no, I didn't.
Okay. What happened when he took your cell phone?
I asked him for it back, and he jumped off back on the bed, and we were going back and forth about giving the cell phone back.
Okay. Did he say anything when he took your cell phone?
No.
Okay. So what happened then after you were going back and forth about the cell phone?
I reached around and grabbed his cell phone out of his side pocket.
Okay. What happened when you reached to get the cell phone?
He got upset and told me to give him his cell phone back.
Okay. What happened then?
We were basically going back and forth. I was trying to get my cell phone. He was trying to get his cell phone.
Okay. What happened then?
We just kept doing that for a while, and then I think it's when he called 911.
At some point, did he slap you?
No.
Do you recall making a statement to Longview Police?
I do, yes.
Okay. And do you recall saying, I kept trying to ask for it back and reaching for my phone, and he grabbed my shirt and ripped it and slapped me across my face?
Yeah, we were reaching for each other's shirts at that point.
Okay.
We were grabbing onto each other's shirts.
Okay. And so at some point, did he slap your face?
No.
What happened then?
He went running out of the room, and my son came in because I told him to call 911.
Okay. What happened then?
He took off down the road with my phone, on the phone with 911.
Okay. What about your shirt?
It got ripped, yeah. It got ripped in the process of us wrestling around.
Okay. Do you recall telling the officer he grabbed my shirt and ripped it?
Yeah,
Okay. And that's what you put in a statement that you wrote out to the officer?
yeah, because we were both wrestling around.
Okay.
pulling back from each other.
Let me ask you, at any point, did you rip his shirt?
I might have. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay. You recall the officer taking a picture of you, of your face?
Yeah,
You recall seeing there was redness on your face?
I don't recall
Okay. You recall how that might have gotten there?
from us wrestling around.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Brengard?
Thank you. November the 9th. Traumatic evening, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
You've been with this man for how many years?
7 years.
You loved him?
I did.
You were loyal to him?
I was.
You were faithful to him?
Yep.
You cooked for him?
Cleaned him. Yep.
Cleaned up after him?
Yes.
You did your best to support you and your family?
Yes.
11:30 at night, it's dark out.
Yes.
He comes home and says, "Get out.
Yes.
I got another woman."
Yep.
Didn't see that coming, did you?
No.
No man had told you that for at least 6, 7 years, right?
Right.
And certainly not a man that you loved.
Right.
You were hurt, weren't you?
Yeah.
Devastated,
Yeah.
angry.
Very much.
In fact, if we were, say, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the angriest, are you there at the 9, 10 stage?
Probably past it.
Well past it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you had a choice that evening. Either you leave or he leaves, right?
Yeah.
And the way that he leaves is to go to jail, right?
I didn't want it that way, no.
But I know you didn't want it that way, but you had a choice between you and your family and him, right?
Yeah.
Where were you going to go at 11:30 at night?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. And he wasn't giving you any choices, was he?
No.
So if you have an opportunity to see him in jail and out of the house, you don't have to move, do you?
No.
Was there ever an assault upon you that night? Did he ever assault you? Did he ever strike you?
Not strife. Just the going back and forth with the pulling and the phones and stuff.
Okay. He called 911, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
You said in direct that you asked him to call 911. Isn't it the truth that he on his own called 911?
No, I asked my son to call 911.
Oh, not son, I see.
Yes.
Okay.
He called 911 because I had his phone.
So the son called 911. Did he ever call 911?
He was on the phone with 911 before my son came
Oh.
in. Yes.
Okay. So the man who allegedly slapped you, at least according to the state,
Mm-hmm.
not you, but he calls 911.
Yes.
Have you ever been more hurt or more angry in your life?
No. I can honestly say he's the one person that hurt me as much as he has.
Pardon me?
I can honestly say that he's the only person that has hurt me as much as he did that night.
There's probably no excuse for it.
No.
I represent him, but I don't have to like him, right?
Yeah.
But by the same token, you know that in this room, we've got to speak the truth, don't we?
Yeah.
And no matter how bad you felt that night and how angry you were that night, you realize that the right thing to do is to come in and tell these ladies and gentlemen what really happened.
Yeah.
I have nothing further.
Thank you. Mr. Schuman?
So your testimony is he didn't slap you with the open hand?
There's no slap, no.
You recall the officer Durbin, talking to you?
I kinda do.
Do you recall you telling him that Wood grabbed you by the shirt, ripping your shirt, and then slapped you with an open hand on the left side of your face?
I think so.
That's what you told the officer, is that
I
correct?
did.
Thank you, no further questions.
Mr.
And why
Brungard?
did you say that?
Cause I was hurt. And we were arguing, and
You wanted them out of the house, right?
yeah.
You knew you knew what the consequence would be, didn't you?
Yep.
You get to stay home. You were saving your babies, weren't you?
Yeah.
Saving yourself.
No, my kids more like, but yeah.
Nothing further.
Mr. Schuman?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
May she be excused, or do you want her to stick around?
She may be excused as far as the city is concerned.
Mr. Brungard?
I will defer to the city and the court.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. You did fine. You're excused for the day if you want to leave. Mr. Schuman, call your next witness.
City would call Catch Stottinger. I could just have this.
Okay, Mr. Stottinger, face me. You can take your mask down while you testify, sir. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead and have a seat. I want you to speak loudly into the microphone so that they can hear you at the back of the room, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Mr. Schuman.
Would you please state your full name?
Catch Ora Allen Stottinger?
Mr. Stottinger, do you live in the Longview area?
Yes,
And who do you reside with?
my mother.
Okay, that's Wendy Stottinger.
Yes,
Mr. Stottinger, I want to get straight to the reason why we're here today. Do you know Mr. Wood here, who is seated next to Mr. Brungard?
yes,
And how have you come to know him?
as my stepdad.
Okay. I want to direct your attention to November 9th of last year. First off, were you residing at 3048 Dover on that day?
Yes, I was.
And do you recall on that evening the police being called to that residence?
Yes,
Prior to their coming, was there an argument between Michael and your mother?
yes.
What did you see of the argument?
Maybe like half an hour in,
Okay, just what did you see?
just them yelling at each other.
Did you see any physical contact?
Mike and my mom sitting there like standing next to each other, yelling at each other.
Okay. Was there any hitting or physical contact that you saw?
Not that I can remember.
How long did that go on?
Maybe an hour.
What happened then?
The police showed up.
Thank you, Mr. Stottinger. I have no further questions.
No
Mr.
cross.
No cross? May he be excused?
City,
And do you want him to remain today?
don't ask him.
Okay, Mr. Brungart?
Again, Judge, it's up to Your Honor and Mr. Schuman.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's all. You can leave for the day if you wish.
Said you would call Adriana Stottinger.
Yeah, you just go forward. The judge will give you instructions.
Okay, Adriana, go ahead and face me. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Okay. What I need you to do is you can lower your mask to testify. And go ahead, have a seat. Then what I need you to do is speak loudly into the microphone so that everybody can hear you in the room, all the way to the back, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schuman, go ahead.
Would you please state your full name?
Adriana Lynette Stottinger.
Ms. Stottinger, do you live in the Longview area?
Yes, I do.
Who do you reside with?
Reside.
Who do you live with?
My mom, Mike, and my brother.
Okay. Want to get reason why you're here today, straight to the reason why you're here today. First off, do you know Mike?
Yes.
Okay, and how have you come to know him?
He's my mom's boyfriend.
Want to direct our attention to November 9th of last year. First off, were you living at the residence at 3048 Dover on that date?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Who was living there with you?
Me and my mom, Mike, and my brother.
Do you recall the police being called to the residence?
Yes, I do.
Prior to their coming, was there an argument between Michael and your mother?
Yes.
Could you tell the jury what you recall seeing about when the argument took place?
I personally didn't see a whole lot. I was in my room, but I heard them going back and forth about Mike being with another woman while being with my mom. And they were cussing at each other, yelling at each other, and I just tended to try to block that out.
Did you see anything?
Not until after I heard my mom scream and her shirt was ripped when she came out.
Did you actually see the shirt being ripped?
No, I did not.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
No cross.
May she be excused for the
You
day?
may be excused.
Adriana, you can leave for the day. Thank you. Mr. Schuman?
City would call Officer Durbin.
Making it safe for you.
Absolutely.
We don't want to get this far and get sick.
Thank you. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Have a seat. Go ahead, Mr. Schuman.
Would you state your full name for the record, please?
Yes, it's Brian Henry Durbin.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a police officer for the city of Longview,
And how long have you served with the Longview Police Department?
just under 13 years.
What is your current assignment with the Longview Police Department?
Currently, I'm a patrol officer on day shift.
What other assignments have you had with the Longview Police Department?
I was a street crimes detective for the last 4 years, investigated several narcotics and weapons violations.
Have you served in any other jurisdictions?
No other jurisdictions.
Officer Durbin, what was your assignment on the evening of November 9th, 2020?
I was assigned to graveyard patrol.
On that day at about 11:50 in the evening, were you dispatched to a residence at 3048 Dover Street in Longview?
Yes, I was.
Is that location within the city limits of Longview?
Yes, it is.
About how long did it take you to respond to that location?
Probably between about 5 minutes, no more than 10.
How did you get there? What was your means of transportation?
A patrol vehicle, fully marked patrol vehicle.
When you arrived at that general location, where did you first go?
I went to the area of 30th and Dover, understanding of the call was Michael Wood was outside of the house, and there was a report of firearms inside the house. So to make it safe, we had Mr. Wood meet us outside and contact him.
Who was the first person you came into contact at that location?
It would be Michael Wood.
To your knowledge, was he the person who called 911?
Yes,
Did you have a conversation with him?
I did. A brief conversation about weapons on him and where the weapons were initially.
Did he tell you the reason he called 911?
Yes, he said he was assaulted by his girlfriend, Wendy Stottinger, I believe it was.
How did he say he was assaulted?
I said that she hit him. Initially, he indicated he was hit on his left side. We looked under his shirt. I didn't see any evidence of injuries. I did note that there was a red mark on the left side of his neck. That's the only other potential injury I observed on Mr. Wood.
Did he say he was injured in his face?
He said he indicated that he was struck in the face. Yes.
Did you notice any injuries to his face?
I did not. No.
What was his demeanor, overall demeanor?
He was upset. He was excited. Not overly excited, but upset. It appeared to be that there was obviously some sort of altercation between the two.
Did he say anything else?
That the weapons were inside the house along with Wendy. He indicated that, or he told me that she had taken his cell phone. And
Go ahead.
just that she had taken his cell phone.
After you spoke with him, what did you do?
At that point, I had Officer Heston wait with Mr. Wood. Myself, Sergeant Johnson, and Officer Gibbs approached the house cautiously due to the involvement or potential weapons inside the house. And we contacted a female who I later identified as Wendy Stottinger outside on the front porch. There was another subject on the front porch, but I cannot recall who it was. It might have been Wendy's son, but I'm not 100% sure.
Did you interview her?
I did.
Okay. Did you notice any injuries on her?
On the right side of her face, I noticed that it was red. She also had a ripped shirt. The shirt was ripped right below her chin and down to her upper chest area.
What was her demeanor?
She was upset. She was crying. Obviously, there was some sort of argument, altercation between the two. But she was upset. She was crying.
Did you take some photographs of her injuries and damage?
Yes, I did. I took photographs of her face, frontal, and then a side shot, and then also her shirt as well.
And Judge, I have no objection to the introduction of these. I'm going to waive foundation, and I'm going to ask that the court allow the jury to see these exhibits.
That's fine.
So you have carte blanche, Mr. Schuman.
That's fine. I just need to have the officer describe them.
Okay,
That's fine.
go ahead and approach.
Can I show you what's been admitted as plaintiff's exhibit?
Yes, sir.
Number one, describe what you're looking at.
That is the front side of Miss Wendy's shirt of the photograph that I took.
Show you what's been marked as plaintiff's exhibit number 2.
And that's a secondary photo I took, a little bit closer view of the ripped shirt.
And I show you what's been marked as plaintiff's exhibit number 3.
And this photo is the right profile picture that I took of Wendy's face.
I don't know how Your Honor wants to do this. I did make the 6 copies.
We can go ahead. Do you have the 6 copies? We can go ahead and publish those now to the jury if you want. They can actually be published now if you want to go ahead and hand them out if there's 6 of them.
Okay, I just have to label the back.
Okay. Is there any objection, Mr. Brungart?
No, I've already indicated I want the jury to see these exhibits.
Okay.
I think counsel, I think Mr. Officer Durbin's described them. I don't know if we need to mark them or.
Did you want me to mark
And then you want them to publish to the jury now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
This one is 2.
Your Honor, do you want me to hand them out, or would you like the bailiff?
We can have the bailiff hand it out, so the bailiff could approach, and then you could hand a separate set to each juror. Thank you. Go ahead and proceed.
Officer Durbin, you've heard Ms. Stottinger's testimony on the stand.
Yes, I did.
When you interviewed her, did she say that she had been slapped?
Yes, she did.
And that her shirt had been ripped?
Yes.
Did you interview any other witnesses inside the residence?
I did not know.
After you spoke with Ms. Stottinger, who did you contact?
After I talked to or interviewed Ms. Stogner, I recontacted Mr. Wood, who was obviously in the presence of Officer Heston, and at that point placed him into custody based on my investigation thus far.
Okay, and that's based on interviewing Ms. Stottinger and observing her injuries?
Right.
Okay. And also, what, any other information about other interviews?
The statements, and there was I was relayed information from Sergeant Johnson, who was on scene, who had interviewed her son.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Did you advise him why he was under arrest?
Yes, I did.
And did he say anything to you in response?
He said that I believe I recall he said that he was assaulted, and I believe that's all I recall. I believe there wasn't a whole lot of conversation after that.
What happened then?
At that point, I remained on scene as the investigating officer. I requested Officer Heston to transport Mr. Wood to the jail, where he took him and booked him for assault 4th degree DV.
Thank you, officer. I have no further questions.
Mr. Brungard?
No questions.
Mr. Schuman, did you want the officer to remain?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, sir. Go ahead and have a seat. Thank you. Your next witness, please.
City would call Officer Heston.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Officer Elijah Heston.
Thank you.
ATS.
Thank you. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you, sir. And you can take your mask down to testify.
Would you state your full name for the record, please?
Officer Elijah Heston.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a police officer with the city of Longview.
And how long have you served with the Longview Police Department?
Approximately 3.5 years.
How long have you served in law enforcement?
3.5 years.
What is your current assignment with the Longview Police Department?
Currently, I am assigned to graveyard patrol.
What other assignments have you had with the Longview Police Department?
Besides that, I have a ancillary duty as a department drone operator, which goes hand in hand with my patrol assignment.
Have you served in any other jurisdictions?
I have not.
What was your assignment back on the evening of November 9th of last year?
I was assigned to graveyard patrol.
On that day at about 10:50 in the evening, were you dispatched to 3048 Dover Street in Longview?
I was.
What happened when you arrived there? What did you do?
When I arrived, Officer Durbin and Officer Gibbs were already on scene speaking with Mr. Michael Woods. Shortly after I arrived, Officer Durbin went to the residence to speak with the female
Brittany.
half of the
Let me see the pictures.
domestic violence, and I stayed with Mr. Woods while he conducted his investigation.
While you were there with him, do you recall having any conversation with him?
Yeah, we made some small talk. He did make some statements regarding an argument with his girlfriend, made a statement in reference to wanting to break up with her, and I do recall that he made a statement that once he told her he wanted to break up with her, that she went nuts and began attacking him.
What happened then?
After that, he made a statement that her son witnessed it, and that he left the residence to call 911. And then shortly after that, Officer Durbin returned to our location and continued his investigation.
What was your role for the, what did you do?
At the time, I was just assigned as a cover officer. After Officer Durbin placed Mr. Woods under arrest, I transported him to the jail and completed a sector citation for him. And then later at the jail as well, Mr. Woods agreed to provide a written statement of the incident, which I in turn provided to Officer Durbin.
Thank you, officer. I have no further questions.
No questions.
Mr. Schuman, did you wish the officer to remain?
No, he may be excused.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mr. Schuman,
City has no further witnesses.
is the state closing its case?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
May I have 5 minutes?
Yes, we will take a 5-minute recess. Do you need the jury to go out?
No, Judge, if I may just step out with my client.